everyone. Welcome to another episode of Alliterations. Today is going to be a little bit different. We're branching off a little bit into nonfiction, for one thing. Still classic literature, still something everybody should read, something that everybody should read multiple times. One sitting or, periodically throughout their lives, throughout the year. And that is the Declaration of Independence. Reading that to you verbatim in honor of 4th of July, 2024. So, Declaration of Independence. Action of the Second Continental Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect of the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impelled them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles, and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for the light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms in which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government, and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted in a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right estimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of the Republic records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions of the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large, for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of the United States for that purpose, obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of the new appropriations of land. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made just judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of these offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us at times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, given his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from the punishment of any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing there an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for inducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to combat the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive in the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, and to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us, and endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an indistinguished destruction of all sexes, ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be ruler of a free people. Where we've been wanting in attentions our British brethren, we have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity and have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and contiguity. We must therefore acquiesce to the necessity which denounces our separation and holds them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war and peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions do in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, and they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have a full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And to support this declaration, we affirm reliance on the protection of divine providence. We mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. So that was Declaration of Independence. It's about 5 pages. It's a little booklet. Complex language to some regard, but also not really. I think most of us have a basic understanding of it, at least of its purpose. And I think it's a very valuable thing to read and reread, understand where we came from and where we're going now, and to see how we might best serve not only ourselves, but a higher purpose, in this case, a nation, through our actions, through our choices, and to ultimately protect the liberty that so many have sacrificed for us. It's a very important, very tenuous republic, as Benjamin Franklin said later on, a few years later. The Constitution was signed, a republic if you can keep it. And right now, there are forces that are pushing to end the republic, and we have to prevent them from doing so. That's not a political statement, that's just fact. Again, I always wanted to avoid politics, especially on this channel, and history too, to some regard. But like I said, this is a historical document, but it's classic literature as well. If you look at a anthology of American literature, that's going to be in it. And it should be. It should be read and reread, because the signers of the Declaration of Independence fought for us, and we live here now because of it, ultimately. And we have power to change things or not change things because of this document. This is the foundational document of our nation. It's just indisputable. And while it may not hold up to all the political correctness of our age, it's still very much so worth reading. I love American history. This is my wall of American history books. Wearing an America t-shirt. The United States established 1776. There are ways we can do better, but ultimately this is a great nation, and it's something that we should take stock of, especially, like say, now that we have a chance to celebrate. So thank you very much for coming to this newest edition of Alliterations. I look forward to seeing you all again.